They say Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. But here's the twist, each failure wasn't just a mistake, it was a data point, a step forward. He had a goal, a vision, and a system to get there. The same principle applies to your life. If you're a teenager trying to figure out what matters, where you're headed, and how to stay consistent, then SMART goals are your light bulb moment. So let's break it down. What are SMART goals? SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. It's a framework that helps you set goals that are clearer and actionable and achievable. So when we talk about specific, the goal is to address what exactly you want. What exactly do you want to see at the end of whatever you are working on? What's that end result? What's the glorious vision you have in your head of what you want to see? And then we have measurable. Can you track your progress? Can you actually use a framework or system, whatever it is, to see that you are getting closer to where you want to be? Then A, achievable. Is it realistic for you? Is it something you can attain? Or is it just something out of your reach? Then we tackle R, relevant. Does it actually matter to your current life? Or is it just something that came over with a trend or something you don't really want? And obviously, the last one is T, time bound. What is your deadline? Here's an example. Instead of saying I want to be healthier, a SMART goal would be I want to exercise for 30 minutes 3 times a week for the next 3 months to improve my health. Because it becomes a problem when you forget to mention all the different elements and the variables that affect your goals, like time, the duration, the location, is it relevant? All those little things affect the overall definition of your goal. But what happens when you don't set SMART goals? Because the title was Why Goals Matter Even If You Don't Care. So let's take a look at an example. Meet Alex, a high school student who wants to improve his grades. Without a clear plan, Alex procrastinates on his assignments, misses deadlines, and feels overwhelmed by the workload. As a result, his grades suffer and he feels frustrated and stuck. The important thing to note here is that he is not lazy, he's just directionless. This is what happens when goals are too vague. Frustration, burnout, and regret all become potent themes in your life when you have no direction. Now, you might be wondering as well if there are any other goal setting frameworks out there. And yes, there are. Some popular alternatives include the OKRs, which are objectives and key results, the BHAGs, which are big, hairy, audacious goals. However, SMART goals are particularly effective for teenagers and some of your older folk because they are easy to understand, flexible, and applicable to various areas of your life. Plus, they provide a clear roadmap for achieving your goals, which is especially helpful when you're just starting out. They take you step by step, just like if you're a beginner. I mean, these are the ABCs and the fundamentals of setting goals. You can't go wrong with a SMART blueprint in front of your eyes. Now, let's talk about how to set SMART goals. Here's a step by step guide. Specific, clearly define what you want to achieve. We touched on this earlier on, but I want you to make sure that you take 5 to 10 minutes thinking about what is it really that I want. If your initial thought was I want to get a six pack, take 5 to 10 minutes think about why I want a six pack, how I want to look. Is there somebody I have particularly in mind who's a role model, who's an inspiration? Whatever variables that made you come up with this initial thought are things that you have to think of when you clearly define what you want to achieve. Let's talk about measurable. Quantify your goals so you can track progress. You know, when you have a vague goal like I want to get a six pack by the end of July, you've gotten specific, like you're following, but you're not quite there. You can take that goal and say, how will I measure my progress? Right now, I have belly fat and I have like a six pack, but not that kind of six pack. I have layers of fat stacking on each other. And well, if I can measure myself and I can lose, I don't know, let's say you have 20 kgs you have to lose, and you want to do that over 6 months, you can spread that out and say maybe every 2 weeks. My math is not good here. I'm trying to do it on the top of my head, but whatever the number is, I'd get that number of fat burnt every 2 weeks. You could actually quantify your goal and break it down into actionable steps. And that's where the measurable part comes in, because you can then say, after every 4 weeks, I'll check in and weigh my waist. And if my waist has gone down by 20%, that means in 3 months, I would have gotten 60% closer to my goal. What about achievable? This is my favorite because As much as it is paining, it is very necessary early on before you even attempt working on your goal. Make sure your goal is realistic and attainable. If I woke up this morning and told myself I want to make $1 billion by the end of my 20th birthday, that wouldn't be realistic. That's not to say a little delusion won't help you out when you're being ambitious. But here's what I'm getting at. When you set goals, you're not setting dreams. When you come into this intentionally, you want to make sure that you actually get there. And when you set a too vague, too big, unrealistic goal on your vision board, planner, whatever it is, when you set it, even in your head, you tell yourself that this is a big goal and therefore it'll take me a long time to accomplish, and so I don't need to do anything. I'll just think about it, and the thought of having that goal will be enough for me. But when you make your goal small enough, you actually give yourself a propensity towards accountability and you start working towards it. So make sure it's realistic. Look at your demographic, look at where you stay, look at your pocket, look at the laziness scale. Because sometimes I might know that I might not be as lazy as the next person, but I'm definitely not as hardworking as the next person either. So if my goal is to get 100 push-ups knocked out by the end of the day and I want to do that for 7 days straight, that might be attainable even if there's room for failure. But if I tell myself that I'm going to do 1,000 push-ups, that's when I'm stretching it a bit. Then I can trickle back down and make it realistic. So please focus on the achievable aspect. Make sure your goal is realistic and attainable, because if not, you're just pushing yourself 10 steps back when it comes to achieving your goals. So let's talk about relevant. Align your goals with your values and your priorities. Don't make a goal that doesn't align with your true self. If you've watched the video earlier on, we talked about your values and how to set that early on in your life so that you know that every single action you take is actually directing you towards your end goal. So if you haven't watched that video, I'll link it in the description. But the most important thing when it comes to the relevancy of your goal is you aligning it to your values, because that's who you truly are and who you want to be in the future as well. That's something you want to maintain over time because it defines who you are in the generations to come, hopefully. So make sure your goal is aligned with your priorities and your values. And the last one, of course, is time bound. Set a specific deadline or time frame for achieving your goal. Now, there's a very common problem we encounter when it comes to this part. We usually set a time frame way too small for the goal we want to achieve. It's usually with goals where you don't have the control on the outcome. For example, if your goal was to be an actor on the #1 show on Netflix and you gave yourself 5 years, that's just something that's unattainable. Why? Let's break it down a bit. Number one, it might take you more than 5 years, since we haven't considered the fact that are you a skilled actor already, or do you have to take some courses and all of that? Number two, are there any spots available for you to audition for? Probably not. Have you checked? Probably not. And number three, the most common one is, do you have any control on how the masses are gonna receive the show even if you get the spot? Probably not. So why would you give yourself 5 years to become the lead actor in a #1 special on Netflix? Because you have no control whatsoever on how the masses are gonna receive this show, or whether or not they're gonna like it. It might not be about you, it might not be about the other actors, but it's just because of one thing: you don't control the outcome. But we can address that, right? This is why I want you to set a specific deadline or time frame for achieving your goal. You can go the extra mile by checking out other people who have achieved the same goal. If you can reach out to them, ask some questions. Hey, what happened when you tried to achieve this goal? Did you run into any problems? Is there anything that you can give as a tip to me which you found out the hard way, or whatever it is, to quicken the rate of you getting to your goal? Because essentially, when you get to the playing field, we want to make sure that you deal with the least amount of friction, navigate through the process while negating all the unnecessary errors you can avoid. So when it comes to writing down your SMART goals, you can use a variety of methods. Some people prefer planners or journals, while others like using digital tools like apps or note-taking software. It's all up to you. You can even create a vision board to visualize your goals. The key is to find a method that works for you and that you'll refer back to regularly. I personally use my calendar, and I use my reminders application to pop up 5 of my goals that I'm working on this year so that I can see them every single morning. Now you can adopt this method, but just use what works for you, because you want to make sure that you refer back to your goals, you refresh your mind, and you always reset the tone of where your life is headed. So let's apply this to a real life example. Meet Johnny, a teenager who wants to learn how to play guitar. A smart goal for him would be I will practice guitar for 15 minutes 3 times a week for the next 6 months to learn how to play 5 new songs. Did you see how in depth we went there? We didn't just stop at how many minutes are you going to do it a day or how many times are you going to do it in a week. We also went into the months, the duration of the whole practice, and how many songs he wants to play. Because we might go into this with the intentionality of saying, I will practice for 15 minutes 3 times a week for the next 6 months. But if you're juggling around 10, 12, 15 different songs, it might be harder for you to attain that goal. So you have to be intentional and clearly define what your goal is. Now that you know how to set smart goals, let's talk about resources and tools that can help you stay on track. The obvious ones are like your Google Calendar, where you block out days where you want to work on specific goals and tasks. You can also share the non-confidential stuff with your friends and family so that people know that on Tuesday, Lawrence is practicing soccer, so we can't call him to any event. So if we want him to appear to any event, it should be before or after. You can use whatever resource, method, or application you're used to. If I find any new ones, I'll link them down in the description. Now, if you've gotten to this point of the video, we have to talk about accountability and tracking progress. Accountability and tracking progress are crucial to achieving your goals. Find an accountability partner. If you can't, join a community group. Let me explain it like this. Let's go back to the Johnny example. After 3 months of practicing guitar, Johnny starts to notice significant improvements in his playing skills. He is able to play new songs and feels more confident in his abilities. How did that happen? Johnny had a coach. Johnny had a music teacher. He didn't do it by himself. So I know that most of y'all might say, well, I don't have any friends, or better yet, I don't have any friends who are interested in this self-improvement journey that I'm partaking in. Well, I'm glad that I'm making this video in 2025 because we have so many communities that are free to join and virtual mentors. I forgot to mention this, but you have podcasts, YouTube videos, even Instagram pages. Make sure that you clean your Instagram feed so that whatever information is coming to you is only helping you in your goal. If your Instagram is taking away from whatever you're working on, better uninstall the application. Or better yet, just reset your suggested content. Follow the people that actually bring you closer to your goal. And pop a question when one of your mentors goes live or has a Q&A. It's so easy for you to track your progress and build accountability systems with this technology in this day and age. So having no friends is no excuse. So what's your light bulb moment? Your dream? Your breakthrough? It's waiting. But like Edison, you don't get there by hoping. You get there by trying, tweaking, and tracking every single step. 10,000 failures didn't stop him because he had a clear system, so I'm just asking you to get through 100. And your system? Smart goals. Write it down, stick to it, and don't stop until it shines. So drop your smart goal in the comments and I'll help you shape it. And if this helped flip a switch in your mindset, share it with someone who needs that spark. And in the next episode, we'll talk about real productivity hacks that work with your brain, not against it. Until then, keep building your life. And if you haven't checked the video on how to build a system that shapes your life, the link will be in the description. I'll see you then.